And the way that you guys talk about it is like it's built for developers and PMs so that they can integrate it into their products and then go to market. So do you have any exciting use cases to talk about, Shane, that are, I mean, we could talk about a chat one, but those are kind of played out in my mind. It's just, I know people are building them, but it's the obvious one. And then the other one is, like you said, like getting information, like a tribal knowledge database type of thing built up. But what else are people building on top of Vectara and these generative AI systems that we might not think of as an obvious thing?
I think some of the most interesting ones are around sort of research and analysis. Those are some of the more interesting customers for us because one of the very interesting side effects of the way that we have built our embedding model is you can perform a search in one language and get results back in a different language. And it's not using translation because the vector...
Yeah, I read that on the website. You guys support like more languages than anybody else, I think.
Yeah. So you can perform a search in German and get back a result that was written in Japanese. And we're not using translation for any of that, for example. It's just by virtue of the way that the vector embeddings sort of work. And that presents a really powerful opportunity for somebody that's trying to do something like research and analysis, where maybe you have, your team of chemotherapy researchers in Japan and team, producing Japanese research documents, and a team of, I don't know, some other medicine in Germany, and they're producing documents in English or German. And the discoverability of that information has so far been hidden in many of those organizations because asking someone to perform keyword searches in 25 different languages that they research in can be really tricky. Asking your Japanese employees to start writing all of their research in English can also be tricky. And so we've seen a sort of really good use case around that, as well as processing user reviews that could be in many different languages, and the sort of like marketplace content in many cases when there's lots of users.
So it's almost like the universal translator for R&D. That's kind of interesting.
We've seen a lot of success in that.
Yeah, it could accelerate like product development and things, innovation, I think.
In the medical case where, this from customers, that something like a doctor might type a note that somebody had a cardiac event, and another person might write, hey, this person had a heart attack. And, another person might write, whoever, like there's a million different terms for something that might be an adverse cardiac event for a patient that is going through some sort of clinical trial or whatever else. And again, that's an area where keyword search systems just don't work very well. You have to type in all of the combinatorics of each of those things together. Or if the system really understands the semantics, it can maybe not obviously, but can figure out all of the relative keywords and semantic meanings.
You touched again on like a little bit about the concept of labeling, and made me think of the source of data for your guys' LLM. Like, where are you sourcing all your data from?
That's a secret, Steve. So the one thing that we don't do explicitly is we do not train on our customers' data. So there are some companies that will do something like training or fine tuning on their customers' data. And we've heard many people be very afraid. Like in some cases, there's some good opportunities, but fine tuning will actually improve. And we might eventually offer like a fine tuned personal model for just you, but we don't try to trade our generic models on customer data. We have, for everybody basically in the area, it's an arms race to try and get as much data as you possibly can to train your models on. So that is the part of the secret sauce. So we can't talk about all of it.
No, that's fair. It feels like there's going to be some point of diminishing returns on the costs. Like you only need so much data to have a pretty good result that's not worth, spending more money on.
Yeah, what we're starting to see is, so we do what's called zero-shot large language models, which try to understand as much of the human language and context around the human language and different types of industries and verticals as possible. I will say, I agree. I think that there is in limiting returns if the data is very generic that you're trying to search. But there's still a huge opportunity for gathering contract data. These sort of things that are often very private, for example, but would make fantastic input data, and the LLMs still do have a lot of opportunity to learn about some of these areas.